Hey, what's going on, everyone? Shabbat Shalom. Servant R.D. Ramant Kohaya. Kingdom of Heaven is at hand. Here with another video. This one is entitled Samhain, and most of you know it as Halloween. I just wanted to talk about this time of the year, touch on some of the nuances of this time. This season, many call it the season of the witch, the season of Wicca, the season of darkness, the season of rituals and celebrations that are going on all over the world, even today, Saturday, October 29th, 2022. This is a weekend celebration. When I was in France, Strasbourg, France, the celebration started on the 25th, I believe, and the celebrations were intense the whole week, all the way to the 31st. But those rituals didn't stop on the 31st. They went all the way through Christmas, the time of the Yule log. You know, in France, they don't celebrate Thanksgiving because they didn't deal with the pilgrims and the natives and all that stuff. That's exclusively an American celebration. But they went from the October the 31st all the way to the so-called New Year on January the 1st. And so over there in Europe, the celebration of Samhain is the beginning. It's a Celtic celebration, but it goes back further than the Celtics. The celebration goes all the way back into the Egyptian culture and even to the Babylonian culture. And we, being the called out ones, those who are called to be a beacon of light to the world, we have an awesome responsibility. The responsibility is to exhibit the light of the Most High through our lives, to show men and women who we are and whose we are, and to give an alternative to what the world is doing, give an alternative. So I just wanted to touch on this real briefly. I want to first start off looking at Deuteronomy, the 18th chapter, in the 10th verse through verse 12, where Moses gave instruction from the Most High to the covenant people. In the 10th verse of the 18th chapter of Deuteronomy, it reads, "There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire." So we understand, for Moses to tell the Israelites this edict from the Most High, there must have been that activity going on in that time prior to Moses, giving these instructions. Evidently, the Egyptians were causing their sons and daughters to pass through the fire. And when you say pass through the fire, just sacrifice. See, when you do sacrifice, it gives power and it renders the earthly authority that we as people have in the earth. As we all know that the Most High said, "Let us make man in our own image after our likeness and let them have dominion." But when we sacrifice is ritual that it surrenders. Remember, I talked about submission. It's a sacrifice. It's a ritual of submission. You submit to a deity. When you sacrifice, you're sacrificing to a deity, which causes the deity or entity to gain power, to gain energy, and to become more influential. And you read this scripture. Let me finish reading this scripture. I'm going to read both verses, verses 10 and 11. And then I'm going to, speak a little bit about this time that we're in. I'm going to let you go. As a matter of fact, we're going to read verses 10, 11, and 12. "There shall not be found among you anyone who makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire, the one who practices witchcraft, or soothsayer, or one who interprets omens, or a sorcerer, or one who conjures spells, or a medium, or a spiritist, or one who calls up the dead. For all who do these things are an abomination to Yahuwah. And because of these abominations, Yahuwah, your power, drives them out from before you. So we understand that the Most High, he drove those entities and those deities that became so influential in the people's lives. He drove them out from among them. And Most High, through Moses, gave them warning, telling them, do not allow yourselves to become a subject for those entities, because the Most High, he drove them out because they were under the control and authorities of those entities through the Egyptians. When you read back in Genesis, the 10th chapter, when you talk about Mizraim, he was just one of the many families that came forth from Noah. And by the time you get to further chapters of Genesis, you find that Egyptian culture was established. And from that time, you see that a whole kingdom and a whole empire was controlling the whole region. Next thing you know, they were worshiping all types of deities and all types of entities, and they received power and sensation. And they began to oppress those who were chosen by the Most High. So much so that they cried unto the Most High, and the Most High delivered them from that oppression. And he gave them sound advice and sound warnings, and strict warnings rather, that they should not do these practices: witchcraft, soothsaying, necromancing, omens, sorcery, and any type of witchcraft and spiritualist behavior. Because when they do those things, they submit themselves and allow the deities to come back and allow the deities to take charge of their bodies and their charge to the charge by the Most High to have dominion in the earth. And so when we talk about Samhain, we're talking about a certain time of the year. They say it's the last harvest of the year, and it's a time to look towards the winter. And in this final harvest, they choose to celebrate this harvest of the year. They say this is the waning of the past year. And through the waning and the change of the season, there's energy that is being transmitted in this time. This is why they choose this time to practice these rituals. And when you look, even in your neighborhood, when you go to the grocery store, when you go to the hardware store, when you go to the department store, wherever you go, you can just go to a convenience store like Walgreens or some dollar store, and you'll see all types of merchandise to help an individual celebrate this time. As we move into this time where these celebrations are becoming more and more popular among the people, we're experiencing more and more offenses that are occurring within the population. People are becoming more calloused, and more acts of crime and more acts of rebellion occurs. This is why we received the warning not to engage. Even churches, you see that churches, they try to be innocent in their celebrations. They want to celebrate trunk or treat. Some of them call it harvest celebrations, and they say they know about it, but in actuality, there's a sensation that you feel at this time. because at this time of the year, it is known that a veil is lifted. The veil is thin between the physical world and the spiritual realm. And they say during this time of Samhain, Halloween, the veil is at its thinnest. And so darkness takes over through the ritual of the people. And as people engage in the ritual, they are rewarded with sensationalism, with stimulation and invigoration and gratification, and especially ecstasy. This is why many people, and all of us, I don't care if you single or married, if you straight or gay, everybody loves sex. Don't let no one fool you and tell you that they don't like sex, unless I take that back. There are some people that don't desire it, but we see this as a sex crave environment that we in, this society. Sex advertised everywhere. Reason why the internet is full of sex sites that promote sex, because everybody's evidently somebody somewhere is doing it. And so people are rewarded with these rituals. And at its height, at this time, you have many people that's no longer out in the rural areas. They have these rituals in the urban areas, the suburbia and rural areas. It doesn't matter. And people in their homes, they set their homes up. And many people, they get naked. They get around the circle and they go around the circle and they do rituals. They put individuals within the circle. They put hexagrams and pentagrams in the middle of the circle. I remember my wife and I, we were driving around out in the middle part of Missouri, and we were looking for a property, the place to bug out. I can't tell you how many places we ran into where we just knew that there were all kind of rituals going on. We drove down this dirt road, gravel road, and we pulled up in this area where there was supposed to be a home for sale on a 3-acre lot. And we drove up in there, and we started feeling eerie. And then we saw signs of people where they had engaged in rituals, stuff in the trees. You should have saw us turning around and getting the heck up out of there. I can't tell you how many places we ran into where we felt eerie, because at this time of the year, although they try to make it seem like it's nothing but fun for the kids, and you know that most adults, when you tell them about this time, the first thing excuse that they use is that this is for the kids. And the response should be, that's exactly why we are speaking against it. Because at this time of the year, more kids, they come up missing, or kids are sacrificed because the deities and the entities requires the life, because that renders the energy, that renders the edict that the Most High gave to mankind. This runs deep, brothers and sisters. I mean, these celebrations, it renders homage and honor to darkness, as it says in Ephesians 2:2. It said once, let me just turn to it. And Paul, he was speaking to the assembly of Ephesus, and we all know Ephesus, they were off the chain. They were reprimanded in the book of Revelation to the church of Ephesus. And the Most High, through our brother Messiah Yahshua, gave this fair warning to Ephesus to tell them, to warn them, because they were practicing these things, like I say, engaging in these rituals. It brings sensation, much dopamine released in the brain and through your members. And it's a lot of fun to people just preparing themselves. And they dressing up to honor the dead. They dress up to ward off spirits or to give homage to those who have gone before us, which we just read in Deuteronomy, where the Most High, he said, don't even engage in it. There's one scripture where Yahshua said, follow me, Luke 9:60. Yahshua said, look, man, follow me and let the dead bury their dead. The dead, when you look at the costumes and the decorations of this time of the year, you see skeletons, you see all kinds of spooks and ghosts. A ghost represents someone who was alive. A skeleton represents someone who once lived and walked upon the earth and no longer exists. And now the skeletal remains, and it's evil for anyone that call themselves following the Most High. All the churches that participate in it. Many churches I know today, many of you that may hear this message will go to church on Monday and participate in the harvest service or a trunk or treat, which is called the All Saints Day, All Saints Eve. And these celebrations runs deep, brothers and sisters, and the Samhain, as it gets more and more popular, the deeds of the people become more and more wicked. And so, and these rituals, man, they happen all over the world. Scotland, Belgium, Irish, and Czechoslovakia, and Austria, Germany, Toledo, Hong Kong. You know, my wife, she told me about a concert that happened in Asia, somewhere in Japan or somewhere in that region, where people were trapped and people were squeezed to death because of the multitude, the crowds, sacrifices. Even in South Africa, they were able to take over. How do you think they were able to take over South Africa? The Dutch in South Africa, they engage in huge celebrations in South Africa, while people living in huts. And they've been trying to fight the Dutch all for the longest, and they fighting it through their own strength. They don't understand that this weapon that they are fighting against down in South Africa are not carnal. As Paul said in Ephesians, he talked about we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principality, power, spiritual wickedness. There's multi-layers of entities that we fight against, and we don't understand that through the rituals, they become stronger and stronger and stronger. This is why the Most High knew that we would be susceptible to do these things. So he gave fair warning for us not to do it, to avoid it, to eschew it. The very essence of Timothy, 2 Timothy 3:13, it says, evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. We are in that time. These celebrations are powerful. The authority, the energy, and the command that the Most High has given us is rendered over. And now the entities, the deities, the principalities, and the powers, they are running rampant, man. They have taken the power that was given to man, and they have taken control. The Father got representatives like us who stand against this and warn the people, because we can't fight against it on our own power, on our own authority. It must be coupled with, and there must be a dependency on the Most High. This is why we must be cognizant of these celebrations and be against it. But you know what? Most people, they won't be against it. Even the white, you have white magic and you have black magic. Many people don't want to deal with the black magic because there are dire consequences for dealing with the rituals in black magic, but people, they feel like if they engage in white magic, they'd be okay. But white magic would lead to black magic. I remember a woman called in when I was with the Kofa Network. A woman called in and asked Brother Yaya to help her get rid of the spirits that were plaguing her from black magic. And Yaya, he asked her, what about white magic? You still? She said, well, I like white magic because she liked the sensation that she received from it. She don't like the consequences that black magic invades into the realms in which she has rendered her faculties in her body to. And black magic just invade, take over through that rebellion. And she called and asked Brother Yaya, I need you to help me out. And Brother Yaya, he was like, sister, if you can't denounce the white magic, I can't help you. I remember that. I was like, wow, man, this is crazy. Now, people may enjoy the sensation and stimulation, but, the payoff is something totally different. When people engage in these activities and these ceremonies, they open themselves up to night visitations, nightmares, lucid dreams, dreams which they think they control but are controlled by another deity, and waking up in the middle of the night, in panic mode, running but can't run fast enough, insomnia, sleep paralysis, to where they see shadows. They can't move, but they see shadows, and they're stuck in between two worlds, channelers of familiar spirits. And that's what's going on. As I said, little children come up missing, hearts being cut out, and you see these various forms of practices and oblations. You see the manifestation of them in some of the supposedly fun-loving celebrations of this season. I once saw someone made the form of an individual, a man, that with his chest cut open, and they put various meats. They cut some of the meat out to look like the man's heart. They had long Polish sausage links, and they had it all, curled up as his intestines. And they had various meat that was inside this body, this form of a body that showed the lungs and the kidneys, and people couldn't wait to dig into it and eat. What you think that is? Eating, people drinking blood that represent life, blood that represent the essence of an individual. You conquer the essence of that individual by drinking its humanity, of its life, just drinking that. And people be drinking blood from cups and don't understand why things are so out of control right now. How can a person just walk into a school and just shoot up people? How can the authorities just withhold information and not, give all the information? More than one shooter have been reported, but they only displayed one individual and withholding the other. How can this be? These little simple rituals that everyone is engaging in, they are fulfilling 2 Timothy 3:13, where it says, evil men and seducers shall wax worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. And they doing it all for the sake and the desire to get more of that sensation, more of that stimulation. It's a stimuli. And when you see these open fires, they have open fires, and they don't understand these open fires are rituals that welcome the dead, that welcome the powers of darkness to transcend the essence and the spirit of those who have died before us back into the earth. It's an invasion, you understand? It's an infringement. It's an intrusion on what the Father has set up. And that's what all this is about. And I'm only just touching on it. And I'm rambling. Yes, I'm rambling. And these events, these rituals, they are designed to generate negative energy. This energy is a channeler, a conduit that will give the prince and power of the air, as it says in Ephesians 2:2, autonomy over the region. And we all know what John 10:10 says. The thief cometh not but for to steal, kill, and destroy. But Yahshua said, I come that they may have life. Y'all willing, the next message, I will deal with that if y'all say the same. So this season of Samhain is deep. It runs deep, man. And what is going on, this is the beginning of the yielding of energy from individual that's breathing oxygen into the realm where the spirit and diabolic beings dwell. It's rendering that energy because the veil between the realm of the physical and the realm of the spirit is at its thinnest through this season. And the more people engage in it, the more you will see the manifestation of the world that we read about in Noah, where the wicked and imagination of men were evil continually. The Father had to do something about it. We see that once again taking place because of all of these celebrations and worshipful ways towards the power of darkness all over the world, all throughout the United States. And we as people of light, we must understand what's really going on. I didn't touch the surface. This message was just simply to raise awareness to what's going on and what's happening. So all of those of you that will go to your trunk or treat, those of you will send your children out to trick or treat, those of you that will engage in your parties, Samhain, Halloween parties, understand you rendering energy to a force that's way more powerful than you realize. And you yielding the little power and authority that's been given to you over to it. And once you find out what it's really about, you are knee deep in the rebellion against the Most High. And if you knee deep in something, it's hard to run away from it. Therefore, let us cleave to the words of the Most High. The words that he gave to our Uncle Moses, that he delivered to our foreparents. Deuteronomy 18th chapter, verses 10 to 12. There shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of time, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter of familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yahuwah. And because of these abominations to Yahuwah, thy high power doth drive them out from before thee. Powerful words for our foreparents many centuries and thousands of years ago. Powerful words for us today in 20 22 and beyond. I'm serving on D. Ramont. Shalom, y'all.